ProLiteracy is in general excited to have a lot of partnership opportunities with AAACE as we continue to work together. This webinar is about the Adult Literacy Education Journal, a new journal of ProLiteracies. I'm joined by my colleagues Alisa Belzer, who's a professor at Rutgers University, and also Amy Rose, Professor Emerita at Northern Illinois University. I'm going to get us started out, and then I'm going to turn it over to them. So we're going to talk about the journal, but I thought for those who were not familiar with ProLiteracy, I would give a little bit of background information on us. So ProLiteracy's mission is changing lives and communities through the power of adult literacy. We promote adult literacy through the development of content, professional development for instructors and program managers, and also through advocacy at the national, state, and local level. A little bit about our history, how we came to be. Back in the 1930s, Frank Laubach, who many of you may have heard of, who coined the phrase "each one teach one," traveled throughout the world to visit thousands of people who he found had low literacy skills, and he taught them really one by one in their native languages. He came back to the United States and in Syracuse, New York, which I'll explain in a couple minutes, and formed Laubach Literacy, a national adult literacy organization. At the same time, Ruth Colvin, who is the founder of Literacy Volunteers of America, who also lived in Syracuse, New York, noticed a problem with adult literacy within the Syracuse and surrounding areas. So she formed Literacy Volunteers of America in order to start addressing the problem in New York, and then of course that grew to be national as well. In 1967, Frank Laubach's son, Dr. Robert Laubach, formed New Readers Press. And New Readers Press is the publishing arm of ProLiteracy, then Laubach Literacy. And we publish a number of materials, over 400 titles, specifically for adult education purposes, from very basic literacy all the way through to high school equivalency. And then it's coincidental that both Literacy Volunteers of America and Laubach Literacy landed in Syracuse, New York. However, both of the organizations got together and decided we're both doing the same work, we have the same mission, let's join forces. And so in 2002, ProLiteracy was born. So that's just a little bit of history about ProLiteracy and how we began. Our reach today. Most of our work is domestic. It's across the United States. We have about 1,000 member programs across the United States that are all run autonomously, and we support them through the initiatives I mentioned earlier, through providing content, professional development, giving them the proper resources to advocate, build awareness, fundraise, a lot of those types of efforts. We also work with 30 partners in 25 countries worldwide, and that is native language literacy, mother tongue literacy. On top of that, we have about 5,000 publishing customers. Some of those member programs, some of them not, but they're using materials through our publishing division, specifically using materials to help those with low literacy skills. And so just to get an idea of the scope of our reach, we're reaching about 1 million learners a year. We recently went through a theory of change development process, and this is what we've come up with as the three-pronged approach to how ProLiteracy is advancing adult literacy, how we're addressing the problem. By increasing the efficiency and effectiveness of adult literacy programs throughout the world, but for the most part in the United States, we're increasing access for adults in need. So sometimes even using technology or some direct-to-student resources to find more learners that may not be seeking services so we can reach them in different places. And increasing awareness and funding. So we advocate at the public policy level for legislation on behalf of our programs and our learners. We also participate in a number of awareness activities related to that outside of public policy. Any kind of news media, celebrities if possible. We work a lot with Nora Roberts and some like that, just to try to build awareness and make everyone in the United States aware of adult literacy so that they potentially can support, hopefully financially, the cause of adult literacy to help us do more work. So as part of our increasing efficiency and effectiveness programs, in particular instructors. We just started a brand new adult literacy journal. Adult Literacy Education, the International Journal of Literacy, Language, and Numeracy. The very first issue was released in April. And I'm going to turn it over to Alisa now just to talk about the actual journal and have her take you through all the components.
Thanks, Michelle, and hello, everybody. This is Alisa Belzer from Rutgers University. I'm one of the three co-editors. Two of us are on the call today. And I'm going to begin talking about the journal, and then I'm going to pass it on to my colleague, Amy Rose. So a little bit of background about the journal. It is brand new. Our first issue came out in April of 2019. We're extremely grateful to ProLiteracy for taking on this project. And we are the only journal at this point that is peer-reviewed and focuses specifically on adult literacy education. I'll talk in a minute on the next slide about sort of how we define that. The journal is published twice a year, once in spring, April-ish, and once in the fall, October-ish. It's a fully online journal and it's open access, meaning anyone can find it, use it, read it, download individual articles or the whole issue. It's available at the ProLiteracy website. I believe that website address will appear near the end of the slideshow. And as I said, it's peer-reviewed. And for those of you who don't know what peer review means, this is the sort of gold standard for academic journals. And what it means is that all authors submit their papers, and then they're sent out for review with no name on it. So that's the blind part. And they're reviewed by peers, by other researchers in the field who have expertise in the topic in which the article is written. We as editors match the papers that we receive with our reviewers. They submit their reviews and then we make a decision about whether the paper would be accepted, conditionally accepted, sent back for revision, or rejected. And if the paper is a revise and resubmit, it goes back, and if the author chooses to revise, it goes back out for review until it is either accepted or rejected. So that's a peer-reviewed journal article. I'm going to try to advance the slides. Let's see if it works. I'm not seeming to be able to advance the slide. There we go. I'm not sure if I did that or someone else did, so sorry. So a word about the journal scope, and this is really actually the first couple of bullet points are really focused on our research articles, and we do have research articles as well as columns. So we'll talk about that when we talk about the components of the journal. But in particular, for our peer-reviewed pieces, we're looking for research, critical essays, philosophical and theoretical works relating to the field. I will say most of the papers we receive are research. We consider any kind of research papers qualitative or quantitative, but we feel strongly that they should have relevance to our readers, which include practitioners, researchers, and/or policymakers and funders. And I think we do have a rather diverse readership, and it's important to keep that in mind, that we're kind of balancing between making sure that we're of interest and relevance to practitioners at the same time that we want to be the go-to for researchers and, of course, policymakers and funders. So we've tried to build the journal in a way that it will have appeal and application to all of our audiences. So in terms of what we mean by adult learners, adult literacy education, whoops. I wasn't supposed to advance. We focus on, I'm sorry, I'm not able to move the slides. Can someone else move it back maybe? We focus on adult learners and learning that is focused on below the post-secondary level of education or skill.
Alisa, just sorry to interrupt you. I think there's just a little delay, but you do have control of those.
Yeah, I mean, I tried to, there we go. That's a long delay because I did it about 20 seconds ago. Okay, so what we mean by adult learners relevant to our journal, as I said, has to do with education level and or skill in the areas of literacy, numeracy, and language education. So even learners who are in post-secondary institutions, but if they've come from adult basic education, GED training, if the program is aimed specifically at that population, but in a post-secondary context, that would be within scope. And also if they're low skilled but have a high school diploma, that would still be within scope. So, so that's helpful to keep in mind in trying to decide, would your paper fit with our journal, or would we say it's out of scope? Okay, so now I would like to advance the slide. Let's see what happens. Not much. I'm gonna move on and hope that the slide catches up with me. There we go. It's really slow. So Amy and I are going to describe the components of the journal. And as I said, the components are really designed to appeal to both practitioners and researchers in whatever way we can. This first slide really focuses on the submissions that we get that go out for peer review. Why did it go backwards? I'd really like to know why this is happening. I'm going to keep talking. We have three kinds of submissions that go out for peer review. I already talked about the double-blind process, but the three types are research articles, viewpoint articles, and reports from the field. We have a word maximum for each of these. We're going to talk about each of these separately, so I'm just going to, wait, I want to make sure I'm going to talk about them. No, I'm going to talk about them now. So research articles I pretty much already discussed. Viewpoints are more like commentaries or editorials written by submitters, and they take a particular position on a topic, and it's really up to the author on what that would be. And reports from the field are typically written by practitioners or people who are very focused on practice issues and are really designed to give others a sense of innovative and promising practices that are coming from the field. They're more descriptive. They're not really necessarily based on high-level research. They might be teacher research. They might just be simply descriptions of innovative practices with indications of why the author thinks they might be promising. Each of these has a word max, including references. You'll see the research articles are the longest, and the viewpoints and reports from the field have a 2,500 word maximum. We look for all submissions to be written in APA format, American Psychological Association format, and I guess that's what I would say about our peer-reviewed section. Okay, I hit the forward button. We'll see how long it takes to catch up. We have another component called our forum. There we go. Our forum is an invited section. It's made up of three parts. Basically, we try to come up with a topic for each issue that is timely and relevant in the field, around policy, around how the field is changing, around specific challenges that are being experienced in programs and classrooms, and so forth. And based on our identification of our topic, we invite a main author to write the first piece, and that often describes the issue and takes some kind of position on it. Yes, there's music in the background because I'm sorry, Terry just asked if you can hear music. I'm sorry, I'm at a music festival and there's a rehearsal going on next to me. There's nothing I can do about it. So enjoy it. We invite an author to write the main piece, and this might be descriptive of the issue or topic and take a particular position on it. And then we invite two respondents, and those respondents are invited to push back on the position the person has taken, or to elaborate on, to add on to give further examples, and so forth. This in total is 7,500 words. We are always looking for interesting forum topics. If you think you have one, you're certainly welcome to contact us. This section is not peer reviewed. The editors work with the authors back and forth until it's ready to go. Okay, next we have several columns. that we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about one, and then I'm going to pass it on to Amy. First of all, we have a resource review, and typically in the resource review, we're reviewing books, but we also may review a website or some other kind of resource. We have volunteer reviewers who write the reviews, and Daphne Greenberg is our resource review editor. If you're interested in becoming a reviewer, you can contact her. If you're interested in having something reviewed, you can also contact her. So I'm going to pass it over to Amy at this point.
Okay. I'm sorry, I can't remember how to grab the screen. Someone can move me ahead, maybe?
I'll do it, Amy, no problem.
Okay, sorry. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the Research Digest. The Research Digest, let me just see where I am. Sorry. The Research Digest is really a review of either one particular piece of research, or it's a literature review on a topic that might be of interest. Authors are generally invited. It's about 2,500 words. But again, if you have a topic that you think might be of interest to our readers and you would like to do a review of several pieces of research, please contact one of us and we can see whether we think it would work for our audience. You can see here our first one was on transformative learning. And it was just an overview of research in educational settings of transformative research, of transformative learning. Next. We also have a technology column. It's called Technology Solutions for Adult Basic Skills Challenges. And the author of that is David Rosen. And David actually writes this himself. It's kind of the only column that's continuously written by someone. All the others shift with each issue. And he talks about different issues related to technology, tools, and platforms that might be helpful to adult basic education teachers. He tries to focus on free tools and free platforms and how they might be utilized. But that said, that he writes it, if you're interested, if you think you've got something special that you would like to share with our audience, feel free to contact David Rosen. So if you go to our webpage, which is listed here, you will see that you can access the journal several ways. You can hit the full issue and get the whole issue downloaded, or you can look at the table of contents and decide you want particular articles. And that's fine too. You can download them all. You can look at it online and not keep them. And then there are two other pieces that we want to draw your attention to. One is that when you write for either this journal or any other journal, you need to make yourself familiar with the author guidelines. So Alisa very briefly went through the pages that, the word count that you would need. But there are also the ways of formatting, and you should become familiar with what the journal is asking, because otherwise we'll receive it, and before we even read it, we're going to send it back to you. So make sure that you look at the author guidelines and that you look at the scope to make sure that it's within the scope of our audience. And then the fourth thing here is the article submission form, because you actually submit the articles from this website. So those are the four pieces here. And then this is just a copy of the kinds of things we ask. So we ask for your name, your institution, your email, your co-authors. We ask that you affirm that you have not plagiarized and that this is your own work. And we also ask for your funding sources. And then, of course, you will upload your paper, which we will blind before we send out. We also have an upcoming special issue. From time to time, we have issues that are guest edited by other people whom we've invited in. And this upcoming one, which we hope will come out in the spring of 2020, but it could be the fall of 2020, is being guest edited by Steve Reeder from Portland State, and it's on broadening the lens on adult literacy education outcomes. And there's the call for the special issue up there. All final papers are due to start the process of peer review starting in August, so it's a little late if you're just hearing about this, but if you have something that you think might fit, please feel free to contact Steve. So finally, how do I or you get involved? Well, there are a number of ways. You can write an article, if not a research article, because not everyone has research articles ready to go, then think about a practitioner piece or a viewpoint piece, something that gives your own particular experience or your own particular outlook on an issue. And if you have a question about how to write this, I suggest you contact one of us so that we can help you think about what would make this different from a research article. If you're interested in writing a book review, Daphne Greenberg is often looking for people to do book reviews, so you should contact her directly. She handles that completely. And then the third thing is possibly review. Graduate students do not generally review research articles, such as if you're a graduate student, that probably would not be appropriate for you. If you're not a graduate student, contact us. However, anyone, practitioners, graduate students, may potentially review practitioner pieces or viewpoint pieces, because those also go out for peer review. So you still have some ways to get involved in the review process, to learn it, to work with us. And it's an important experience as you go through your graduate program if you're a student. And if you're not, those are still open to you, as is the research article review process. And here is our contact information.
Right, so thanks, Amy. Here's contact information for both myself at ProLiteracy. If you have any questions about the information I provided earlier about ProLiteracy, membership, any of the other services we provide, please feel free to contact me. There's one email address for Alisa, Amy, and then also Heather Brown, who works on the journal right below that, and they can answer your questions on that. And I think that at this point, I don't see any questions in the chat, but you're welcome to submit anything.
If anyone would like to unmute their phones, you're welcome to ask any questions of our presenters.
Or maybe you want to tell us, because I think we're a pretty small group, what you were hoping to get out of this. Because maybe there are things we haven't covered that we would have time to cover.
And you're welcome to put it into the chat box as well. If you do not want to unmute your phone, you can also put your question in the chat box.
Well, let me ask you all this. What do you see as the most pressing issues that you would like to see a journal such as ours deal with?
So this is Colleen. I don't know if you can hear me.
Can you speak louder?
Oh, this is Colleen. And so I just wanted to make sure that that everyone could hear me. But being a practitioner within the field, I think it's probably what you're working towards with your special issue. But I'm seeing a large change in what we believe are the outcomes that, well, we are now working towards specific outcomes that are definitely different than the past. And so for me, that's a pressing issue, because when I look at the totality of the students that I work with, what we have to show as outcomes aren't really representing all the outcomes that we're really making. So that's one of the issues for me that obviously concerns me in the classroom with my students. Does that make sense?
I think that some of the articles for the special issue are dealing with that, but possibly not in quite the way you're talking about it now. Alisa?
Again, we haven't seen all the articles that we're getting in there, but I think definitely that was what you're expressing. It was part of the impetus for our wanting to do this special issue. And I would encourage you, if you are really feeling this to be a challenge and something that you're working towards navigating, either to write a viewpoint piece about it or a practitioner piece, the notes from the field piece. So the notes from the field piece could really be if you feel you can make a contribution to other people's practice by explaining what you're doing to address that, or if you feel, you know, challenged and sort of want to express your feelings about it, it could make a really excellent viewpoint piece. So, you know, I think there's a couple of options there for you.
Colleen, the only thing that I would add, this is Michelle, is that outside of the journal, there are a couple of other things we're working on. One, we're looking at a number of topics to cover through some research digests. We don't really have a name for them yet, it's still in the works. But this is one topic that came up as one that rose to the top. And then also, I don't know if you're attending ProLiteracy's conference in the fall, I'm not trying to plug it, but there is a featured session specifically about this topic, because we are hearing it continually from the field. So I thought I'd just add those two things outside of the journal.
Thanks.
Well, I guess, Terry, if there aren't any other questions, we could probably end the webinar. Again, there's our email addresses were listed. I know Terry's sending out the recording, so feel free to contact us at any point. Thanks very much, everybody, for joining. And thanks, AAACE, for allowing us to have this opportunity. It's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.